sure that there's not a reason to have to pause. But, just like the rest of the country, you're dealing with the highest numbers, in the country that we've seen. Us here, we're not, it's just we have one positive and some contact tracing that's hampered a position.
Are you able to specify which position that is or which side of the ball?
I mean, I am able, but I'm not going. I don't know if that I am able, but I'm not going to.
Dave Matter, go ahead.
Eli, last week you're just talking about your offensive line being down to 9 scholarship players. Just kind of, where do you stand there? Is it still kind of an open competition for some of those spots?
Yeah, I think we're getting, just the nature of the season with injuries, contact tracing, NCAA sanctions, COVID, all kinds of stuff. I think our numbers at a lot of positions are getting tight. And like I told the team, we're all going to have to find a way to help us contribute to be successful, whether it's a walk-on, whether it's a scholarship player. Our job is, if we're in this organization, to do our part to help us win. There's absolutely competition. Obviously, Dylan Spencer suspended for the first half of this coming contest. So then you're going to have to, figure out who your third left guard is that's going to actually start. And then there's competition at the 2 tackle positions. We kind of had a 3-man rotation in that last game. And so I anticipate it being that same type of competition. And we had last week to help us figure that out.
Gabe DeArmond, Gabe.
Yeah, Eli, just to be clear, as of now, you guys are expecting to play. And I know it's not just a unilateral decision, but when do you kind of hit a point where a final decision has to be made?
Yeah, that's in the hands of our administration and the SEC League office. And I think the thing that we've been very adamant about from when we started is, number one, it's player safety. Are we making sure that our players and their safety comes first? And then if it does, then let's try to play football. And it's in that order. We submit our roster every day to the SEC office. And there are certain protocol benchmarks that everybody has to meet in order to play. And, we submitted our roster. So, as of now, I don't know when a decision would have to be made or not made. Yeah, I don't know.
Mitchell Forty, Power Mizzou.
Eli, I know we got several injury updates last week. One player I don't think we touched on was Daniel Parker Jr. Do you have a sense of his status for Saturday?
Questionable. Trying to work through the phases of protocol and everybody's different. There's no exact number on that, but as of right now, I would say at best it's questionable.
Bill Pollock, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Eli. I know all the East teams play each other, but it seems like kind of a unique situation where you played Florida, then you get a chance to see them play Georgia. So you're kind of getting a good sample, a recent sample of both teams. How do you kind of use that to your advantage as you game plan for Georgia, knowing what Florida can do and seeing what they did against Georgia?
We don't have Kyle Pitts. So that's a little different. You can see different things that teams have tried to do against an opponent and maybe see, if there was a weakness in what they do. But the reality of it is you gotta execute what you can execute. It's not really about what, so I don't know that helps you or doesn't help you. I know that they got beat up a little bit in that game. So we're trying to figure out who all is going to play. But I don't know if it's, I don't know if you can say, well, we played them tough in this part of the game and they played us tough in this part of the game, so it's going to be even matchup. Every game's got a life of its own.
Eric Blum from the Tribune. Eric.
Coach, you might have talked about it a little bit here and there, but what did you say the team worked on most during the bye week, and how was that spent? And just was it getting healthier, or what exactly was it?
Obviously we had guys in the training room and treatments, and we lifted, but we practiced. We got to practice ball security. We got to practice takeaway. We got to practice not busting coverage. We got to practice stopping the run. We got to practice running the football. We got to practice running routes. We got to practice catching the ball. So, I mean, we practiced the areas that we're struggling with right now.
Jack Sobel, go ahead.
Coach, you're going up against a Georgia team whose strength is the defensive front, especially a guy like Ojulari, who's been rushing the passer really well. I know you're not going to give away your game plan right now, but how do you go about stopping that kind of pass rush, especially with the beat-up offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just probably, run screens, draws, run at them, double team them, chip them, run reverses, all the kinds of stuff that keeps defensive lines off balance. That was pretty good, Jack, given our game plan, wasn't it?
Let's go Suichi Ferrata from the Star. Go ahead.
Hey, Eli, looking at the stats, I guess when you guys win, Larry runs for more than 100 yards, and when you guys don't win, he doesn't have so much production, I guess. Is there a correlation there from your perspective? I guess what are kind of your thoughts on that and getting Larry the ball more?
Yeah, usually the correlation is the score is indicative that we can continue to try to be patient and run the ball. And when the score gets too far away from us, whether it's 2 scores or more, then it puts us in an impatient situation calling plays. So we got to do a better job of staying within striking distance. Obviously, we got to continue to open holes. I think that would help us if we're consistent catching the ball and staying on the field. Then it gives you first and second down run calls so you can get the ball to Larry. And obviously we got to get some people healthy.
Gabe Yarman, go ahead.
Sorry, I left my hand up and didn't mean to.
Oh, okay, all right.
Good question.
Let's go to Rob Collins from Fox.
Hey, Coach Drinkwitz, thanks for taking the time here. Halfway through the season, do you feel like you've had a chance to breathe, man? Do you feel like you've had a chance to put your stamp on the program with everything you've been dealing with, first-year coach, COVID, and everything surrounding the program?
I don't know if I've put my stamp on it. I think we're starting to develop an identity of who we want to be moving forward. I will say this. This was given to me today. We're in the 17th week of the season and have only played 5 games. So, I don't think there's been a break. There's always something going on. I mean, every 3 days you're holding your breath waiting for the COVID results to figure out how your team's going to be affected. So, I mean, there's just a different level of stress this year. And it's been elongated. So, yeah, I don't know. 17 weeks, 5 games. It's a wild ride, boys. Hold on.
Max Baker, go ahead.
Coach, are you able to trace back where this positive came from? Did it come from the road trip, or were you able to? Is it a kid who went home during the bye week? Or were you able to figure out where, when, and why you're contact tracing the players you're contact tracing?
I have not figured out how the person contacted or contracted the virus. I saw a really interesting deal today, and it was on Twitter, so it had to be true. But it talked about the CDC updated that it was, if you wear a mask, it was 77% effective. If you social distance, it's 82% effective. If you're less than 15 minutes, then it's like 67% effective. And if you wash your hands, and those numbers may not be exact, but they're pretty close. So I'm sitting here wondering, what's 100% effective? I think these guys can do every single thing right and still come in contact and contract the virus. So I don't place any blame on our guys. They've been, to go 4 weeks without a single case and then just to have one, I don't, the narrative of they've maybe done something wrong when there's a single incident that would cause it, I don't necessarily agree with right now. The contact tracing, we're just trying to be above board, follow county protocols, do everything we can to prevent the spread. So there wasn't a particular event that caused it. It's typically roommates, riding in cars with some person, somebody. All those things cause contact tracing. And so, when you trace back 48 hours from a positive test, then you're gonna get some people.
I understand. I wasn't saying that a player did anything wrong. I was just wondering if you could trace it back to the road trip to Florida, if it was after the Florida game that you traced as positive too.
I mean, viral load takes, from what I understand, 2 to 14 days before you would surface. Do I think it was from the trip? Absolutely not. Can I emphatically say that? Nope. Have no idea. I mean, like I just said, you can wear a mask 100% of the time. And, it's like 60% of the time it works 100% of the time. I mean, I don't know. Anchorman. There you go.
Megan Strickland, go ahead.
I have a question. So once a player recovers from COVID-19, do you guys evaluate how they're recovering? Do they have any lingering symptoms, or are they just back on the field? Has any player talked about if they experienced any lingering symptoms or long-term effects from recovering from COVID?
It's a great question, Megan. We subscribe to what the SEC task force and protocols comprised of leading epidemiologists and doctors in the Southeastern Conference. And there is a 4-day reacclimatization period that occurs starting with day one with light jogging and workout that gets you back into it. And then day 2, 3, and 4 as you increase your workload. We also do a series of protein tests, check the heart, the myocarditis deal, which was something that was this summer. So we do a complete upwork of physical and make sure that any player that's had the virus is healthy and deemed safe before they're able to replay reacclimate and play a full game or full contact. As far as just interacting with our guys and asking about being sick, we're constantly checking on our guys. Owen Stanley, our lead athletic trainer, we go through a series of questions every single day. There's a series, and then we temperature check and pulse ox meter every day, and then yes, we are constantly worried about, number one, player health and safety.
Kyle Pennell, go ahead.
Coach, you talked a little bit about the Georgia defense, but you faced an aggressive Florida defense as well before your bye. And I'm kind of curious, after you watched the tape from that game, were you able to take anything away from that? Maybe how the offense dealt with that pressure that you can kind of take into this Georgia game that may help you guys out?
Yeah, we didn't deal with the pressure very well. We didn't sustain blocks. We didn't protect the quarterback. We didn't catch passes, and we didn't score points. So I tend to think that when you don't display your ability to handle something, that the other team is going to try to copy that and see if you've created answers. For us, it's about execution. It's about fundamentals, hands inside, having our eyes on the right key, understanding our proper footwork, catching the football, getting the ball out on time. So those are things that we worked on in the bye week. Different defensive philosophies. Both defensive coordinators are really good. Dan Lanning and Todd Grantham are probably two of the best defensive coordinators besides, behind Coach Walters in our conference. So it's definitely a challenge.
Peter?
Yeah, Eli, just to clarify, is everyone who's out this week also out next week because of the SEC protocol?
No, not everyone who is out this week is out next week. It's all depending on the positive test being on Sunday. Then you go 10 days, then you have a 4-day reacclimation period. Once you test positive, it begins from when you started symptoms. So there's always different times and dates and flexibility. And when the contact tracing starts, goes from 14 days from the moment of contact. So no, this is not necessarily a 2-week deal, but So is there any more clarifications?
I mean, I would love, if you want to clarify how many players are out, that'd be great, but I don't know if you're going to.
I think we'll go to bench 40. Mitch.
Eli, you touched on this a bit earlier, but Alabama and Florida found some success against the Georgia defense, especially through the air. Is there something you can take from that, or does that have more to do with those offenses having some pretty elite skill position players and quarterbacks?
It's all about matchups. I like our team. I like our football team. I like the guys we got. And it's all about finding matchups that you can create and then executing in those calls. Florida and Alabama created some matchup issues, and they were able to execute with their guys. The trick of coaching for us, for our offensive staff, is to create our matchups with our players against their guys. And I don't know if I've got those matchups created just yet, and whether or not we will execute them. But I can't, I'm not going to compare my team to Alabama and Florida's team.
We'll go to Dave Matter.
Eli, I don't know if you've been at full strength all year, but just hypothetically, on the line of scrimmage, your team on the offensive line, defensive line, how close or how far away is this team to being what you feel like you need to be in the SEC to win at a high level?
That's a hard comment for me to answer with 5 games left, and knowing that our guys are giving us everything they got. Our guys work every single day to try to be the very best that they can be. And so I'm not going to disparage where they are compared to where we need to be. I just do know that we've got to improve. We've got to get better. You always want more depth. You always want more athleticisms. I know this is a game of size, a league of size, and we've got to continue to increase our size. Our numbers. I think this is a league that's also really deep, and we're not where we need to be on both sides as far as numbers. I mean, we got 9 offensive linemen. We're starting, a junior college young man who was here July 24th, and we're starting a center that got here in the middle of the summer. So, obviously we've got to continue to improve our depth. And on the defensive side of the ball, we're playing a young man who got here, in the middle of fall camp. So obviously we've got to continue to increase our depth and our numbers, and we do got some improvement to do in the trenches on both sides. I don't think somebody pointed out that when we rush for 100 yards, we win. So, obviously we got to start rushing for 100 yards in every game.
Quinn, go ahead.
I've got 2, Coach. I've got 4 guys who are ineligible to play in the first half of this ball game. Is their absence factored into the mathematical formula that the league would use in terms of a threshold, or are they considered part of the eligible roster?
I only have it as 3.
Is Trey out also, or no?
No, he's already served his.
Okay, so it's 3.
Yeah, it's 3. And, I believe they have to be available to start the game in order to count towards the total number.
Could that be an issue?
Yeah, I guess. Sure.
And my follow-up would be LSU. You were without, 6 guys for the LSU game? How does this compare to that week and the lead up to that game?
Yeah. Similar. Yeah, similar. Just position specific, I think, is the biggest issue.
And that week it was D tackles and wide receivers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Ben Hockman, go ahead. We got time for a couple more guys. Ben.
Hey, Eli. I wanted to ask you about your quarterback, Connor. Can you share some examples of ways you've seen him grow? And I'm not necessarily talking about as a passer or what have you, but just as a leader, as a quarterback, and with your football team. Yeah,
I think Connor's starting to settle in as far as being more vocal and communicating and talking and so much about the quarterback position is being able to communicate effectively to the wideouts. Hey, on this play, I need you to do this. On this is what I was thinking. Okay, what were you thinking? What did you see? I think he's starting to feel comfortable doing that with this guys. It's okay. This is my team. This is my offense. I need these guys to do it this way, and so I think you're starting to see that communication, which is a step of growth.
And can you quickly describe your relationship with your quarterback? Like, are you talking to this guy all the time? Like, how do you coach a quarterback from your role?
We're constantly in communication. It's, I think I've said this before, that my job is to come up with the recipe, or, his job is to cook the meal. And so I just tell them, hey, this is how this is the recipe we got, but obviously this is the play call. You got to cook it. You got to figure it out how it's going to execute on the field. And so we're constantly communicating. Yeah, I like this. Yeah, I don't like this. I'm not comfortable with this. I like this, but how do I read this concept or that concept? What are you thinking here? And that's an area I think we can all improve on. I think it happens a little bit more when you have spring practices and you can experience failures against your defense and learn. We're learning, we're having experienced failures in the SEC and having to learn from those, which become a little bit tougher and more dramatized.
Eric Blum.
Coach, with getting back to Larry Roundtree, he's only 18 yards from tying Zach Abrams' record for being for among running backs, the all-time leading rusher at Mizzou. As an advisor to him, as someone who's trying to teach him the game of football, are you reminding him of that, or do you let him come to you, or what do you think is your part in that process when he's about to accomplish something grand?
Nothing. I don't have a role in that until after. We're in the middle of a season. We're not worried about individual statistics or stats. We're worried about team goals. And I think as a captain, he would say the same thing. Once you accomplish something as a team, then you look back on it and recognize that achievement. But right now we're focused on what our team can accomplish, and Larry is the ultimate team player. And once you get that, then you can look back and see it as significance. I think you'll ask me the same thing about the first career win. Here, like I don't process that right now. Like where we are, what our record is right now. We got a long way to go. We're trying to accomplish what we can for the senior class and put on good tape for these guys for their future. And so individual accomplishments, we're not worried about that right now. Again, when the season's over and you have your banquet, you look back or after the game and you've accomplished your goal of winning, which is the ultimate goal, then you look back and say, okay, well, I've done this too within the framework of what the team needed to do.
Ben Arnett.
Eli, for the guys that are out for contact tracing, and particularly since you mentioned you're zeroing in on mostly one position group, how do you keep those players engaged in the game plan and when they can't be around, and make sure that they're able to slide back in there optimistically when they're able to come back?
Yeah, Zoom meetings is number one, and then you have individual workout plans for them. In bands and they're able to do stuff. They're able to watch tape on their own on their iPads. They're able to have a workout with our strength coach giving them a workout so they can do it on their own. So this isn't new. This has been going on. We just haven't had to deal with it in the last 4 weeks, I guess. So we'll just go back to what we did the first 3 weeks of the season when we had those guys out, which, we had out for, I think we had several out for Bama and several out for Tennessee and several out for LSU. So we'll just go back, dust off that file and see what worked and implement it again.
Gabe, I've got your hand raised. Do you have something?
Yeah, I actually mean to ask a question this time. Eli, I'm sure you're getting used to, by this point, preparing for a team that you don't know exactly who's going to be on the field, but how unique is it that there are 4 quarterbacks that supposedly are getting snaps, and how difficult does that make game planning for a team when there's that many guys that you might be facing?
I highly doubt that they're going to rotate 4 quarterbacks and expect to be prepared for a game week. It's hard enough to get one quarterback ready for a game. So I think that's probably more of a smoke screen, So I'm pretty confident, we know who's going to play and then and how that's going to go. So I'm not falling for we're going to practice 4 quarterbacks throughout the week. If you did that, how would you prepare for third downs? How would they get enough reps for third downs in red zone to be ready? So I don't know. I don't know. The one I don't know is I don't know about the safeties and the DBs and the different people that have been kind of nicked and bruised. So, but quarterback, yeah, they're committed.
We'll do 2 more. Jeff Sentel, go ahead.
Yeah, Eli, I appreciate it. I think Gabe kind of hinted on something. We don't think there'll probably be 4, but if that's 2, when you have a talented roster that really hasn't exploded on offense yet, how different is that preparing for one or two guys that have contrasting styles, which they might throw at you?
I think each offense has a unique identity based on what they're able to execute. So, let's say that y'all are saying that he's going to play either Dwayne Mathis or JT Daniels, or they're going to stay with Stetson Bennett III, right? That's really the conversation we're having, right? Well, Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels' offense is pretty much very similar. We've seen what Dwayne Matthews has done in 2 half games. So it's not like they're going to roll out there and run the triple option because Dwayne Mathis is in the game. I mean, they still got to function within the framework of what their offensive weapons are. They're committed to establishing the run, play action shots, and spreading the ball out on third down. It's not rocket science. I mean, they still got the same 10 guys around them. If you don't match personnel, he's going to get in 23 personnel and run a sweep on the first play of the game and go 75 yards. So I'm not – whoever plays quarterback, they still have the same offensive structure and DNA that they've showed the first 5 games. One just happens to be a little bit different and provides a different threat. But I don't think you're going to all of a sudden see Georgia offensively be running spread option, or you're all of a sudden going to see them in an air raid system if another quarterback's in there. I mean, that's just not – maybe they do. Crud. Awesome. We'll adjust. That's 2020.
All right, close this out, Suichi.
Go ahead, Jeff. Nope, Jeff had a follow-up. I like this. Yeah.
So I guess conversely, you mentioned it earlier, you were looking at the other side of the ball. When you break down Georgia, how much different is them when you look at them without 2 and 99 in there? How much of the factors not having in there?
Yeah, we got 2 first-round draft picks. I mean, you got erasers in there. I mean, 2 is an incredible player. You look at Tennessee where they run the reverse, and you look at it and you're like, wow, this is going to have a big play. And he tracks the ball from the other side of the field. He makes 2 unbelievable interceptions against, Arkansas and Alabama. I mean, he has a knack for the football. He can fit downhill. He can play free safety. He can match versus, any of the guys that Alabama threw out there playing man-to-man. So, I mean, it gives you incredible flexibility to call your defense. Number 99 is an incredible space eater. You can play cheat boxes, which is, you can play a 5.5-man box or a 6-man box knowing that he can 2-gap anybody you put out there. So that guy's a totally different ball game. So, those 2 guys being gone. And Crud, I mean, is 16 is as physical a free safety. He plays cut, weak side safety. He plays cut as good as anybody. I mean, he knocked one of Auburn's guards down when he was trying to pull. I mean, that dude is is good of safety. I mean, those 2 guys are as good as they are in the league. So that's a whole different animal. I like talking about that stuff. Yeah, those guys that's different when they're not in there. I mean, those are good players, and they got really good players behind them. I just don't know if they got the same amount of experience.
Suichi?
I guess last one. Eli, without mentioning the specific positional group, but how does practice change when apparently such a position, at least one position group has changed or is affected so much by COVID? And how much did you learn from training camp when you did have some troubles there?
Football is a game of routine and normalcy, and what you don't want to do is rob Peter to pay Paul. So you try to keep it as normal as you possibly can so that the guys can be in a routine. You still got to get player development, and you try not to say, well, this one position's out, so the other guys on the football team don't get their work in. So you manage it the best you can. However you need to, you kind of massage it however you need to so that you can get the reps that you need and make sure that everybody's, staying in shape, staying physical. And it's still going to be a physical game. So you got to make sure you still have, leverage, hands inside, eye placement, hat placement. And we still do that. We still find ways to do that. That's why they call us coach. It's to problem solve, and we got to figure it out. So I don't think anybody Saturday is going to give me a free pass because we got 6 people, or 7, 8, 12 people out with COVID, whatever. They're not giving anybody free passes. So you get ready to roll. Figure it out.
Thanks.
All right, guys, we'll let Coach